Hi guys, welcome back to Creative Frenzy. Okay, so we did our art journal booklet, envelope art journal. That's what we did. We did our one tag already, and I did find some black construction paper so I can make my tabs, and I'm happy with how that turned out. If you wanted to, you could draw lines on here in order to write, or you can leave it as is. You could use it for sketching on or whatever you felt like, but the idea is to have it ready for future use. But she just peeks through the window quite nicely. Sorry for the glare. And now we are going to work on our cover. So hopefully you are playing along and you have found all your envelopes and are creating some of your own little art journals, whether you'd use bright colors like me, or you use neutrals, whatever the case may be. So the idea is to create something fun, something inspirational. So when you have artist block, you can look back on these and say, ooh, that is a great idea. Or you can use them in different applications. You can use them in junk journals. You can use them as little gifts for an inspiration board kind of thing. I'm going to hold it on there for a few seconds just to make sure that all the ink is transferring. There we go. So I'm still using the Dina Wakley stamps. I love her art style. So that is what I'm using. And we can color it in. I think I'll use pencil crayon because it is one of the things I have laying around. Well, not laying around, but definitely handy. So there's quite a bit of color in here, but it's basically 3 colors and black is a neutral. So it's quite nice to have something a little bit different. So I hope you are all doing well. Like I said, when I create these things, I sort of do it on the fly because that's just how I work. But you know, you can absolutely plan ahead if that is how you work. You can really overthink things though, and I think sometimes that is a shame because, you know, that creates more excuses to wait forever and not create at all. The idea is to just sort of hop in there and try different things, which is why I create these little booklets, because you can just experiment. You don't have to be too precise with anything. You can just have fun. All right. So I like the idea of just making multiple colors. Now, obviously, if you like neutrals, go for it. I say that a lot, but you know, I tend to use a lot of color when I do any project like this because I really do enjoy color. Like even in my home, there's a lot of color. There's one neutral color throughout, or one thing that binds them all together. But you know, for the most part, there's quite a bit of color, which is what I enjoy about it. There we go. So you can cut this or you can tear, whatever you felt like. You could use a shape punch. So if you wanted to do a certain shape, you could, you know, potentially do that. That would look kind of cute. Again, I wanted to neutralize some of the cover, so I am using it onto white paper. You could do this in tissue paper if you want it. That would make it a little bit more see-through. But I like this sort of, you know, cohesiveness. Now circles are my MO. I really do enjoy circles on a lot of my projects. Whether they're in one color or another, it doesn't really matter too much. But I like the addition of circles, so whether or not they're placed strategically or, you know, part of the overall feel. The idea is to create, I don't know, with fun in mind. Now I have some acetate sheets and I used a Sharpie to draw on them. So using an acetate element onto your project can be a lot of fun. Some companies, like Ranger I think, sells them with some of Dina Wakley's products on them. You could easily do it on your own by, I hate to say this folks, but tracing, you know, just put your plastic on top of your stamp sheet and then just trace it roughly with your, whatchamacallit, Sharpie. Yeah, my goodness, words are not coming easily today. But the idea is, you know, to create some form of differentiation between paper and paint. So plastic, you could use packaging too, that's fine. But plastic creates this sheen that really has a cool look to it, because it makes you wonder, right? So it's all about texture and just the overall feel when you're done. So you can just sort of place them anywhere, but I like the idea of just sort of grouping it together. And it doesn't have to be any particular shape. You could just do scribbles, you could write on it, you could do whatever you like. But the idea is just to have fun with it. All right. Now don't forget, the tape that we used, you could always put Sharpie on that. So if you wanted to do strips, actually let's do that. So let me grab my Sharpie. So I got this one at, I want to say Dollar Tree or some dollar store. It's in the tool section. It's one of those pro Sharpies. It smells to high heaven. I will give you a heads up on that, but it works on just about any plastic. But just looking at where the tape is, you can just go right over top of that. And then you can just, you know, disguise the tape a little bit. And it just becomes part of the cover itself. And I'm holding it like this so I can actually see where the tape is. And you can do that throughout the thing. So again, a unifying something to bind it all together. Whew, like I said, it really does stink. So, you know, don't stand up too quickly. But it adds an element of something, which is pretty cool. All right, so now how do I attach these? You could staple them on because it's an envelope. You could easily just staple it so you don't see the staples on the other side. You could. I have never tried this with regular glue, but if you use a glue that dries clear, I'm sure it'll be fine. So I'm just using Aleene's tacky glue for that. So let's see where I want to orient things. So make them in different sizes so that you can sort of switch things up. And what I like about it is you can go over the edge like this a little bit so that it becomes part of the entire design eventually. And you can save one for later, it's fine. If you didn't want to use magic marker because you're sensitive to smell, use your permanent ink. This is waterproof, but you could use the other one, the Sukaneka one. What is it called? The Stays On, yes. So you could do it in a bunch of different colors. So if you have Stays On, I only have black, but if you have a bunch of different colors, absolutely, you could use those and then you can have fun with that. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to need a new glue stick. Again, I'm using my glue stick because it's a dry glue, dry-ish, so it's a little bit easier to make sure I don't have bubbles. Alright, that one can come out. I mean, I could stick it in there. And then we could just put a little bit of glue underneath. So, again, it'll dry clear, so it's not too obvious. There we go. A little bit of pressure always helps. There we go. And then this one we can just sort of put on the side. Just don't put glue where it's going to hang over the edge, else you'll be waiting around forever for it to dry. Excuse me, sorry. So that neutralizes the front a little bit and it makes that sort of stand out. From here you can do lettering. If you wanted to write onto your acetate sheet first and then put it on there, you absolutely could. Let me grab mine. I have some pieces left over. Oh my goodness, my sewing machine's in the way. Hold on. There we go. Again, you know, I don't think these things ahead of time, so yeah, it is what it is. What can I say? So I save these little strips because this is what you can use this for. So you can just sort of attach it that way. So let's do that. Now you need to be able to see. All right. Now you can write it out first and then, you know, trace over top. You can print out some lettering if you like a different font or something like that. You can trace it out, but let's see, what should we write? Create art, and then maybe every day. I mean, you don't have to. There's no rule that says that you have to. I have another piece here. And then you can just do you can write, you know, cursive, block printing, whatever you feel like. If you're really good at lettering, absolutely do it, because this is the time to use it. Now you can attach these with staples, you can touch them with glue, you can attach them with brads if you wanted to, because again it's an envelope, so it has the space to hide the mechanism of everything else, so you can do that. Again, you don't have to do it on acetate. You can just write it right onto the paper itself. Or if that is too crowded, that's okay too. We can do it on the next page. That's okay. Maybe we want to do it on the next one. All right. So maybe what we can do is here, just a little quote. It's a good way to just create something a little bit different because there is the plastic that is kind of shiny. So again, it creates that contrast between paper and paint. And I'm just running a bead of glue, just like you would anything else, around the edges. You can make acetate pockets if you wanted to create more space for other tags. So here where there's a blank area underneath, you could create a pocket quite easily with paper or with acetate, you know. And it'll cut down on some of the brightness of the colors, like if you wanted to simplify it a little bit. So you do it that way. All right, so my last video was taped upside down. My phone loves to tease me every now and then and say, yeah, we're going to do it upside down today because I don't feel like doing it right way up. So I apologize for that. I'm not a technical person necessarily, so for me to fix that might be beyond my skill level, unfortunately. I could look it up, but you know, if you orient your phone a certain way, it'll be okay. You can still watch it. So, and if it bothers you and you don't want to watch it, I'm okay with that too. So there we go. We have our cover. We have our first little envelope done. If you wanted to disguise more of certain areas, you could absolutely do that. So let's see, what else do we have here? Again, I love using circles, but you know, we can put this here because it's a leftover from the front page, so it's kind of cohesive. You could do it in different colors. Sharpie has so many different colors. That's what I like about it. I got these ones. Hang on, let me see if I can grab them. I got these ones at the dollar store. They're a really nice color combination. They come out with so many different colors every year that they're a lot of fun. Hang on, let me plug in my phone so we do not end up running out of battery. There we go. Hopefully we're still good. But then you can do them in different colors, so maybe we'll do that. Here we have a piece here. Should we do some... You probably can't see that, but that is okay. So you could turn this into a pocket, like I said, so you can tuck something in there, which, you know, would work quite nicely. But I want to do a bunch of little... some stacked little hearts. So what I like about this, you're not really committed. So it's nice to be able to just doodle onto something like this, and then you can attach it with just plain old glue. Now these markers are not as bright as, you know, the black. Shows up a little bit better, but that's okay. It gives you a chance to have a closer look, and I think that sometimes, you know, when it draws the viewer in, that's kind of cool. So when you go like that, it just draws you in. It makes you want to look a little bit more and say, oh, what is that? So there's lots of different textures that go on there. Again, you know, if that is not what you want and you want it brighter, by all means, you know, just doodle away. And that's half the fun too, if you can even see that. There we go. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's being able to try different things. There might be bleed through, so make sure you take your card out unless you'd like the transfer. That's okay too. But you can experiment. I think too, you know, with acetate, there's so many different things that, so if you have an image in a magazine that you like, but you don't, or in a book that you really enjoy, but you don't want to, you know, photocopy it or anything like that, you can trace it onto acetate or packaging, and then you can use it in this kind of concept, which is kind of cool. You know, this, excuse me, for some reason my voice is starting to go. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. This reads as more of a red than a pink, but that's okay. It's in here, so it's kind of nice to be able to carry it through in different areas. Everything is fixable, right? What I like about it too is that you can layer things. It just adds more interest. You don't have to be stuck with any one thing. So it's kind of cool to be able to do that. So you get the gist. All right. So I've also done like rainbows like this. So I think what we'll do is we'll do something like that. We can cut that out. Now there's smaller rainbows, but I like these big ones. So since we're on acetate sheets here, let's just continue with that for this video. Again, you can be as creative as you like. And acetate is just so easy to cut. And I'm sure a lot of us have packaging that we've saved, so you can use that. It might be a little bit thinner than some of the other things, but that's okay too. All right, so what you can do is you can continue the whole thing and then trim it here, or you can just do part of it. That's okay too, which might be what we end up doing here. All right. So this would look good on the side of a tag, but it looks good there too. So what we're going to do is we are going to attach this. Doesn't require a lot. It's okay. Oops. I'm just going to put it right alongside where the window edge of the edge of the window here. Now there is some white space here. If that bothers you, you can go in with a marker or some washi tape. That'll work too. There we go. That's cool. All right. And then you could use the third one down here. Ooh, I like that too. You know what? That's what we're going to do. Yes. Or we could match it to our tag. No, I have decided I like it as a background for this. Just remember, don't go over your fold, or else you're not going to be able to close it properly. You could trim it if you want to. You don't have to. Just leave it as is, because the more things stick out, the more interesting your booklet will look. All right. So what do I want to do here? Well, we could use the same washi tape as over here. I do have it out still, right under here. There we go. So we could use some of that because the colors still go together nicely. You could use a solid color if you didn't want to use too much pattern. Thing is, I kind of like all the pattern. It just creates more interest. I don't know. My brain seems to enjoy it at the moment. So that's what I'm doing. You know what? And I still want to use this heart here. I'm still going to put it there, I think. Yeah. You know, when you create these things, what I like about it is that you can just keep on adding. You don't have to be stuck with only one kind of, you know, you can change your mind. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like if you want to come back in and try something, you know, it's like, oh, I really enjoyed this, but I really want to add this to it. You absolutely could. That's what an idea book like this is for. It's to experiment with different things, right? So that when you look back through things, you can look at it and say, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. So that's kind of the idea. So here's our big packaging. So this is going to be a big tag, but because we extended our envelope, it's going to go nicely together. So all we have to do is do something with this. Alrighty. Let's set the booklet aside for now. So what I have here is my gel printed tissue paper, which I absolutely love to use for different projects. Again, you could do the whole sheet. You could use some of your more colorful ones. You could use more of the solid ones, whatever you felt like using. And there's some really pretty ones in here. And then there's some, you know, that are, you know, not so great. Let's see, what color do we have to use? So you can pick a single color out of there, or you can do a contrast. So because mainly blue here, so we could do like an orange. You gotta think of your color wheel, or just do whatever feels right. That is okay too. I'm usually a do whatever feels right kind of gal, because that's just how I am. That's how I create. So now, will some of that show through? Yes, absolutely. If that bothers you, you can obviously gesso it first and then put it on there. It is entirely up to you. The thing is, I kind of like the idea of being able to see something in behind, and it's not just because I'm too lazy to paint it first, I promise. But if you do it this way, the way that I'm showing you, with this raw material showing in behind, this is what creates the interest when you're creating art journals, okay? Because a lot of the stuff that we say, ooh, that is really interesting, is stuff that we, you know, don't think about until you really take a closer look. All right? And that is what I like about it. Now, you could do it on the other side. That's absolutely fine. But this, no two tags are really going to be the same because it is so different from one packaging piece to another, okay? Which is what I like about it. And that's what creates the interest when you do any of these art journal creations. And some things you just cannot repeat. It's like when you're doing gel prints. Some things you just cannot repeat. It is what it is. And sometimes you get a masterpiece and sometimes you get a dud. That's okay too, because from each one you learn something a little bit different. Whether it's a color combination or, you know, just a difference of textures or, you know, different sizing, things like that. But see how much more interesting it looks. And you can cover it up with some other papers. That's okay. It's fine. But this gives you a nice base because it's something interesting. And we will be putting coffee dyed paper on the back. I do have it here, I promise. My desk is now so full that I'm having a hard time finding things. All right, there we go. Is that big? Oh, just big enough. I need another glue stick. Hold on a second. Oh my goodness. Again, not prepared. So I bought a bunch of glue sticks at Dollar Tree. They're the Jot ones, so we'll see how well these work. All right, I mean, a glue stick is a glue stick, really. How much of a difference can it possibly be, you know? I know some are more superior than others, but I'm not making things for posterity. I'm making things for the fun of making things. And if it lasts a long time, that's okay. If not, that's okay too. Life is ephemeral, and, you know, that is just the way it is. There we go. But it's a nice beginning to another tag. Again, you can make them into traditional tags, or you could just, you know, think of them as journal cards. Right, tags, technically, yeah, they should have something on there, you know, like a string or a ribbon or something, but that's okay. For all intents and purposes, they're all pretty much tags. It's all right. Whether you can write on them or not is a different story, but there we go. Again, once it dries, it'll be better. could take a bond folder to it just to help smooth it out a little bit better. Just remember, not on your tissue paper because it will rip. Okay, tissue paper is delicate even when it does have paint on it. All right, so from here, what do we want to put on this? I do have more acetate sheets. So, oops, there goes something. So these, I traced some other stamps from Dina Wakley. You know, even some of the other, like, older ones that I've had are a lot of fun to use. I'm pretty sure it's, I don't know. I don't remember who that's from. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. I do have it beside me here. Let me just double check. I do not want to credit the wrong people. Yeah, it is Dina Wakley. So it's those. So all I did was just roughly traced it with Sharpie, and that's it. So you can orient these any which way you like. But I like this person here. Those ones we'll save. But see how that just sort of adds that little bit of something. Now you can be more precise in cutting it. That's okay. Oops. Because the shine will still be there. Now, if you're worried about it coming off, you could always flip it the other way around. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about this too, is that you can orient it any which way you want. So if you want it this way, you just flip it over. So it doesn't really matter which way you have it. So you can do it either way, right? That's kind of the nice thing about it. So I like that. Let's see, what should we do in the back? Again, I love circles, whether they are hand cut or, you know, punched with a punch. It doesn't matter. I do find though that a circle punch is one of the most often used tools in my studio, for the very simple reason that, you know, you can use it for so many different things, which is kind of nice. So all we're going to do is we're going to cut out some elements. So we're basically doodling with paper. There's some amazing doodle artists out there, you know, that use paper for doodling. And I absolutely love how they put things together. I'll see if I can find the one that I used to watch all the time. I haven't watched her stuff recently, but that's not because I don't like her stuff. I just, you know, I just want to create right away. So, which is kind of, you know, the idea of creating these things so that you can just have something available almost right away. So when you get the urge to create, it is there to do so. So if you make a bunch of these little booklets, then anytime you feel like creating, you absolutely could. Oh, I love that. See? Something about the shape that just really makes it work. And I probably need to sharpen my punches. I should probably take some tin foil to them, which they need every now and then, just to get them all organized a little bit better. But even these shapes like this, you know, it just creates instant interest. I like that. So that's really cool. So that's really neat, right? So there we go. I think that looks really cool. All right, so now it's just a question of gluing it all down without moving anything. That's always the hard part, Because sometimes what I'll do is I take everything off and then I've forgotten how I had it in the first place, which is really annoying. But wet glue in this case, because you can apply it a little bit easier, makes it much simpler. Just don't use too much and you should be fine. Now anytime I attach tissue paper onto anything, I use a glue stick because wet glue just makes it rip too easily, and that's not what you want. And when you do these arches, going over the edge a little bit, especially if you can't line it up right away, is okay, because it allows you to snip it off if you had to, because you can just reorient it the way you want. Okay. I gotta glue my little guy down yet, so I want to make sure I have enough room for him. But anytime something like this overlaps, it looks good. So maybe we'll save that one for later. And then we're gonna orient these. So we'll start with the big element first because that one goes underneath. All right, and then we can work our way through that. Again, it's a little bit finicky, but it's okay. It'll hold. That's kind of what I like about the wet glue for the arches, because you can, it's flimsy, but it's easy to orient. And if it's not exactly precise, that is okay too, because sometimes, you know, as Bob Ross is always so famous for saying, no such thing as accidents or mistakes. It's just all happy little accidents, I guess. Is that what he says? Don't quote me on that. But the idea is to be similar to what you were before, so that you can orient them a little bit easier. So instead of using marker or, you know, acrylic pens, which you absolutely could, although on tissue paper it's a little bit difficult to draw on because it's so delicate, so you don't really want to do that. But, you know, if you had just plain paper, it'd be fine, like painted paper, not tissue paper. So now we can put him or her there. There we go. There. It'll dry clear. We're just going to trim this off. Okay, and then we're going to put this one onto here. So I sort of, it's usually big how I feel when I put things together. I know a lot of people have very strict rules about, you know, triangles or thirds or whatever. I just go by how it feels. I mean, we instinctively know, you know, when something doesn't feel quite right. So I don't think you have to be too concerned about complete orientation of how things should be. You don't have to overthink it, let's put it that way. I think it'll be just fine if you try to do it just, you know, by feeling. It's okay to do it that way. You don't have to plan everything out ahead of time. So now what we can do is we can ink our edges. There we go. Be gentle because that tissue paper is quite delicate. It doesn't take much to ink the edges. I think I missed a couple of pieces of trim here. There we go. Now you could do something on the back too, like if you wanted to use a stamp or something like that, you absolutely could. That'd be fine, you know, it's like whatever you feel like doing. That's kind of the idea behind this, so it's part of the fun. So we could do, let's see, there they are, another little, there we go. Creativity takes courage. If you don't want to use any, like, you know, word stickers or things like that, get your die cut machine out and your alphabet and use some black construction paper to make your own words. That's okay too. I've done that in plenty of my other art journals. You have the supplies, use them up, you know, or use them. You know, alphabet dies are perfect for that kind of thing. So what we are going to do, we really don't need to make a tab for this, but we absolutely could. You could use also, like, see, she sort of popping out. It just makes you want to take another look. What you could use is, what was I going to say? No, I don't remember. We'll circle back to it. We could use a tab for this if we wanted to, but it sticks out quite a bit, so I don't think it's necessary in this case. See, there we go. Embossing. So if you wanted to use scrapbook paper instead of gel print paper, or you could use gel print regular paper like this and emboss it. I think I might do that for my next tag. Another idea for another video. All right, I think we're good for now. Again, you know, if this whole thing bothers you, you can cut it out, you can put a ribbon on, whatever you feel like. If it doesn't bother you, that's okay too. Or you could do something like this over top of it, fold this in half, right? And then glue that onto the top. And then make it stand out more that way. So it doesn't have to be something that could potentially puncture if you weren't careful with it. But again, you know, the more something is looked at and appreciated, the more patina it'll get. So doing the stripes on these was a lot of fun. Well, on this one anyway. I don't know if I want to do it on this. I think it'd be kind of cool. Let's do it. You can also do something onto the windows themselves. I've seen people emboss those, which would be kind of cool. You'd have to do that before you go to put your whole thing together. All right. It's okay if they're uneven. That's half the fun. But you can doodle to your heart's content. All right. That is our second little tag done. See, amazing what you can do with some recycled materials. And an art journal, you know, full of ideas and fun. That to me is the best of all worlds. Now I do have two things of black on here. I could potentially put something else on there that is black. Let's see. I usually like to work in threes. You don't have to, of course, but it's one of those things you absolutely could. Now, if you didn't want to make a tab, but you do want to create something like this, you absolutely could, because why not? And that's what we are going to do. That's okay. I need something black anyway, and instead of it sticking out more, we'll just create like a faux tab, right? So we'll just do it right about there. Make sure everything is tucked down. Just creates a spot for people to look at, and it's like, oh, right, that's interesting. There we go. So even the larger tags, you know, it'll just create more interest. You don't have to cut them down or anything. And then if you wanted to bring the window down a bit, that's okay too, or, you know, whatever's in the window down a little bit or up a bit. Either way. So there. I really like how this is coming together. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.